Cristian Pache is raking, JP Sears has a new slider, and Jordan Díaz lost some weight. We're going to tell you why all of that matters today on Locked On A's. How's it going, A's fans? And welcome to episode 538 of the Locked On A's podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, noted baseball fan Jason Burke, and on today's show, we're talking about Cristian Pache. He finally got a start. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about how he's doing this spring. It looks like he might make the A's opening day roster as of right now. So could that change? We're going to talk about all that. We're going to talk about JP Sears, his new slider, why that it makes an impact for his trajectory in 2023. And then later, we're talking about Jordan Díaz dropping a little bit of weight and where he could fit on the roster, or if he even does fit on the A's roster. So that's what we got coming up for you guys today. But before we get into anything, thank you so much for making Locked On A's your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all platforms, including on YouTube. So go over to YouTube, leave us a comment down below, subscribe, obviously, because we're trying to get to 1,000 subs by opening day. And if you're already subscribed, thank you for doing that. Comment down below, because that is how the YouTube algorithm works. Is it helps find it's just how it works, you guys. I'm not going to explain it. That's how it works. Also, thumbs up, that helps. Also, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. And make every moment more, and visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. Also, make sure to follow the podcast on social media at Locked On A's on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at @JasonB on Twitter. Check out Inside the A's for more A's news, insight, and analysis coming your way whenever A's news happens. It's at Inside the A's. And I believe tonight, if the baby is asleep, I'm going to be doing my roster projection 2.0 because some stuff has happened. It's been a couple of weeks. So since spring has actually started, there's been some injuries. We're going to talk about some performance. So we're going to do that over at Inside the A's. So follow Inside the A's at Inside the A's on Twitter. Or go to the URL si.com/MLB/athletics. But let's talk about Cristian Pache to kick this sucker off here. I had written an entire segment about how he had not started a game yet this spring. It had been almost a week. No starts. He'd gotten into a bunch of games, had not started a game. And I was not furious, because I don't really get mad about these things, but I was like, well, what the... Mark Kotze said last week that this is a big spring for him. It could determine the rest of his career, is essentially what he said. And they're not even giving him a start. And then I was like, well, maybe what they're doing is getting him ready for a bench role, because if he does make this team, it's going to be as a fourth outfielder. So maybe it actually makes a little bit of sense. So that's kind of where I was landing is, hey, it makes sense. They're getting him, they're seeing what he can do off the bench, and what he did off the bench yesterday, which is why I had this written. But the A's obviously read my notes and were like, not so fast, Jason. He's starting on Friday. But yesterday, he went 1 for 1 with an opposite field double in the 9th inning, I believe. And that was against a league average left-handed pitcher. Those are all the things that I wanted him to do, aside from draw walks, obviously, because the walks are the big thing for him this spring, apparently. So we're talking about all of that stuff today. So far, this spring, he is 4 for 11. That is a .364 on batting average. That's good. That's a great batting average. Go, Cristian Pache. 4 for 11 to start his spring. I love it. He's drawn a walk. That's not bad. That's almost a 10% walk rate. And then he has 3 RBI, 2 runs scored, and a .417 on base. Those are great numbers. He's having a good spring so far. It's been a week, but he's doing what he needs to do right now. If he can continue roughly at this pace, he's a shoo-in. He's obviously going to be on the A's roster, unless they trade him for some reason, and they really shouldn't, because this is what you want. Cristian Pache, if he can hit a little bit, is a great player. And here's what he did on Friday as a starter. He had an RBI ground out. Obviously, it would have just been a ground out if nobody had been on third base, but RBI ground out sounds a lot better. He brought home the run. He did what he needed to do. So situational hitting, chalk it up to that. Why not? And then he had an RBI single, which if there was nobody on base, would have just been a single, but it's an RBI single. So 2 RBI for Cristian Pache on Friday. Not bad. And then he grounded out to short. It was a 6-4 put out. So no big deal on that one. So he went 1 for 3, but 2 of those drove home a run. that's more than anybody else did today. Because was it Brad Keller? I think the Royals really shut down the A's real good in this game. The A's have lost three, not necessarily in a row. They lost two, tied one, lost another one, I think is how it's gone. It's been a bad week for the A's. Maybe we'll do an over-exaggeration podcast to begin next week. We'll see how the weekend goes. They got split squad games coming up. It could go really poorly, but we'll do some overreactions to whatever happens over the weekend. But right now, they're on a skid, and it's not great because it's come against like the Rockies and the Royals and the Cubs on the tie. So not great, but those are not like good teams necessarily this year. And if I want the A's to be better, and I've been saying that they're going to be, I'd like them to beat those teams a little bit more. But if Cristian Pache makes the team, it's going to be as a fourth outfielder, and that means more appearances off the bench. So what he's been doing so far this spring, aside from Friday, it makes sense, I guess. I think that if you see him coming off the bench more against left-handed pitchers, the A's are starting to see where he can fit into this team. That's something that I'm going to be on the lookout for. That is something that we saw on Thursday when he came up and had that opposite field double against a league average pitcher. He's I think it was Baruki, something like that. He's pitched in the majors a lot, like a decent amount. He's been league average, but he's been in the majors. So not a bad guy to get a hit off of late in the game. Because here's I've laid this out before. I've written about this at Inside the A's, but not everybody pays attention to everything that I do. So breaking it down real fast. Seth Brown, who's the A's left fielder projected by me, he's not great against lefties. Let's be honest. He's not great against lefties. He hit 172 with a 230 on base and a 52 WRC plus. That's not great. You would like to see him platooned and Cristian Pache if you want to keep him around, and I think you should because he plays amazing defense. And then maybe he can hit sometimes. He's doing it right now. And if you just throw him in against lefties, he's going to have a little bit more success. So against lefties last year when he was not good overall, I think he hit 166 on overall, but he hit 220 against lefties with a 281 on base. That's not bad. I think that those are serviceable numbers. If you can do that full time, he's a good guy to have on your team. That's a 77 WRC plus. So he's still 23% below league average because 100 is league average, but I would take that production from Cristian Pache. I would take that. I think that if he had, I also ran some numbers. Big number crunch coming up your way here. Watch out if you're afraid of math. Not really. If he drew 2 more walks last season, he would have had an on-base percentage of 303 against left-handed pitchers. That is good. I think that if you get Cristian Pache at a 300 on base, you're doing okay for yourselves. He can run the bases. He can steal bases. He's not quite like Esteury Ruiz in like the menace factor on the bases, but he's got some menace potential if he's on the bases enough. And I think that that is kind of okay. So my question to you, and leave a comment down below, if Cristian Pache was an everyday outfielder and he hit 220 with a 303 on base percentage, would that be good enough to be an everyday player with the defense he provides? I haven't run any numbers, but based off of gut feel and vibes, I think so. I could be proven wrong. I don't know that I would admit that I would be wrong, but I think that I would take that much production from Cristian Pache, at least in a split role. But as a full-time outfielder, if he's facing righties and lefties and putting up that stat line, I'm happy with that, I think. I'd like them to do a little bit more in a platoon role, just because it's a platoon role and you're going against the guys that you should be dominating. But I think that I would take 220 with a 303 and, some home runs, maybe, 7 to 10 home runs, because it's only half the time. And, some 15 stolen bases, something like that. And then just gold glove defense half the time. I think that's a valuable piece to have on a roster, and I think that would be enough to get Cristian Pache in Oakland, and maybe even an actual look at some regular playing time once other guys are traded. And there's going to be trades. There's always going to be more trades, But I think that with him and Ruiz, that could be a very nice, center field, right field, maybe combination, maybe left field for Ruiz and center field for Pache. We'll see. But I like those two. And then you throw in like a Lawrence Butler maybe next year. And oh man, that is an electric outfield right there. I got to say, that's something that you could dream on. So I really would like to see Cristian Pache make this team and start cementing his place in Oakland, because I think that he could be an electric factory just like everybody else, just like Esteury Ruiz has the potential to be, just like Lawrence Butler has the potential to be. I think that Cristian Pache has that same potential, and I want to see him realize that potential. But he's gonna have to keep going this spring, or else the A's are either going to waive him or trade him. So hopefully he keeps going. But Cristian Pache, good luck. Keep going. I'm very invested in Cristian Pache and the green and gold. Anyways, coming up, we're talking about JP Sears and his slider, because it was unhittable on Thursday. Stay locked in, you guys. Today's episode is brought to you by Built Bar. Looking for a delicious treat, but you don't want all the fat and the calories? Then you gotta try Built Bar. What makes Built Bar so good? Well, for starters, they're covered in 100% chocolate. That is right, real chocolate. And they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. I don't know how they do it, but these bars taste like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macros. And what's even better is that they are healthy for you. Only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and a whopping 17 grams of protein. And now you don't even have to wait around to go get your box. If you're on your way to spring training, hit up your local Walmart or your local Sam's Club. You don't got to go to built.com to order these anymore. If you're in a rush, you can just go to Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. You can head to your Walmart today, walk up to the pharmacy section, and grab a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. Or if you're closer to a Sam's Club, just run in and grab a 13-bar box with their hit flavors brownie batter and churro. You can thank me later. Welcome back to the Locked On A's podcast. If you guys are enjoying the show, make sure to subscribe wherever you like to hear podcasts. Follow us on social media at Locked On A's on Twitter and Instagram. I am by Jason B on Twitter. Check out Inside the A's for more A's news, insight, and analysis coming your way whenever A's news happens. It's at Inside the A's. Also, just si.com/MLB/athletics. Just at Inside the A's on Twitter. That's the easiest way to see all of these articles all the time, because they're being published constantly. And again, we got the roster projection coming up for you guys, a second version of the roster projection, because I haven't updated it since the AJ Puck trade, and so I got some thoughts. And obviously, people are asking me every time Lawrence Butler does something, they're like, hey, can he make the team? I got some thoughts, so I'm going to write those thoughts in that article over at Inside the A's. But let's talk about JP Sears. So far this spring, he has made 2 starts. He's gone 4 2/3 innings pitched. He has a 9.64 ERA and a 171 WHIP. Those aren't great numbers, obviously. Those are bad numbers. Not even not great. They're just bad numbers. For context, though, he tossed 6 2/3 innings pitched last season, and he had an 8.10 ERA and a 195 WHIP. So his ERA was lower, his WHIP was higher, and so he also had a pretty decent season overall, like a fairly decent regular season. So based off of that and what I'm about to tell you, it seems as though he uses spring to, I don't know, train and get used to things and try out some stuff and see if something might work for him in the regular season. That's what kind of a pitcher JP Sears seems to be during spring training. He's not looking to go get some shutouts. He's looking to work on some stuff. And so the numbers aren't great, but I don't think that we should be worried about them yet. Let's see how he is in 2 weeks, right before the regular season starts. Let's see how JP Sears is doing then. And where does JP Sears fit on my roster? Gotta go to Inside the A's after you're done reading this, or after you're done watching this, and then hopefully it'll be done. It'll probably be around midnight tonight, Friday. So if you're listening to this any point after that, it should be there. But Sears is working on a new slider, and that is why I think that some of his numbers haven't been great. On Thursday, he went 3 innings, gave up 5 hits, 3 earned runs, and he struck out 4. 2 of those were Eric Hosmer, so I guess he only struck out 2 because Eric Hosmer barely counts. Shots fired. Still mad about 2014, Eric, so you're going to have to wear that one forever. And also, overrated, maybe? I don't know. He was a big part of those Royals teams, but has he done much since? Just saying. I don't know. Anyways, he's been working on a new slider, and it hit on the radar gun on Thursday, 84 miles an hour. He averaged 79 miles an hour on his slider last year, and that is a big development. That is a 5-mile-an-hour kick if it is, in fact, going to stabilize at 84 miles an hour. That would be amazing. All of the hits that he allowed were off of his fastball. That is according to MLB.com. And so that's an intriguing stat. So his slider was literally unhittable. And he wasn't throwing his slider to righties yet. And all but one of the hits that he allowed 5 hits. 4 of those were against righties. So that's another something. He wasn't throwing his unhittable pitch. He's not ready to yet. And so I think that if you take your unhittable pitch, the pitch that you combine with your fastball in order to tunnel pitches, then they can kind of sit either fastball or changeup, and they can guess right 1 out of 3 swings, because you get 3 strikes in baseball, and that's how you give up some hits and some runs. So I'm not too mad. Location wasn't great, but he was not throwing his slider either. So very intrigued to see when and how effective, when he starts throwing it against righties, and also how effective it is against righties. He said he wasn't quite there yet, so he just wanted to, see how it did. Again, slider sat at 79 miles an hour last season. It hit 84 miles an hour on Thursday. Very intrigued. And I think that his tunnel is going to be nice. We've been talking a lot about tunneling this last couple of weeks here because it's important. And because the A's don't have a lot of huge stuff guys. They got some stuff guys, but they don't have good command. So guys like J.P. Sears and Ken Waldichuk and Kyle Muller, they're guys that rely on tunneling in order to have their stuff play up a little bit, because it's harder to differentiate one pitch from another. And then you get a bunch of wild swings. It's fun. And then you get put on Pitching Ninja, and everybody gets to know your name at that point. So Pitching Ninja is the gatekeeper of pitchers, and everybody wants to be on Pitching Ninja, obviously. So should we be worried about J.P. Sears and his 9.64 ERA and 171 WHIP through 4 2/3 of spring training? No, I don't think so. I think that he struggled last spring. He had a pretty good season. I think he finished with a 3.7 ERA. Is that right? That might have been somebody else. He had a good season. He was fine. And I think that as a bullpen member, he'll be okay. I think that I would put him in the bullpen. I'm going to rack my brain a little bit before I write that piece for Inside the A's and see what happens there. But no reason to be concerned about JP Sears yet. I think location or, command or hitting his spots could be a little bit of an issue to keep an eye on, but not necessarily the ERA just yet, because he's not throwing his best pitch. And so that's something that we should definitely be keeping an eye on. And we're just going to see how he does in a couple of weeks. And then that is where we can start making determinations on how good JP Sears is doing and whether or not he should be in the rotation, because there is an open competition. And the guy that I had in there last time, Ken Waldichuk, wasn't great in his one outing so far this spring. So it could somebody like JP Sears or Freddie Tarnock, who had a good 3 innings. I think he gave up 1 run on Friday. Could he make it? Could dark horse candidate Freddie Tarnock? I had him as a bullpen piece somewhere down the line, but could he be in the rotation? Lots of guys have options. They could just go with whoever had the best spring, honestly, and we'll see what happens there. But Kyle Muller, another option. Who's going to make it? I'm very intrigued to find out how the rest of spring shakes out. But we're going to talk about second base and Jordan Diaz coming up here in just 1 second. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. The midway point of the NBA season is here, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That is bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from money line to point scores and 3-pointers drained. Steph Curry is returning to the lineup soon. Has he already? I don't watch a ton of basketball. Also, the Kings, I was looking at the standings. They're in 3rd place in the West. They're going to make the playoffs, probably? if they don't make the playoffs, I'm going to be very upset for Kings fans because they've been waiting a while, and they deserve it because they got screwed the last time I remember them in the playoffs. Anyways, plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same-game parlay, so don't miss your chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back to the Locked On A's podcast. You guys are enjoying the show. Make sure to subscribe wherever you like to hear podcasts. Follow us on social media at Locked On A's on Twitter and Instagram. I'm by Jason B on Twitter. Check out Inside the A's for more A's news, insight, and analysis. Follow them at Inside the A's on Twitter, just at Inside the A's. Also, if you haven't already, comment down below. Would Cristian Pache being a 220 hitter with a 303 on base be good enough for him to just be an everyday player for you? Let me know down in the comments. But let's talk about Jordan Díaz because the San Francisco Chronicle, or Matt Kawahara, he said he wrote a piece about Jordan Díaz and the transformation that his body has taken this spring. According to the Chronicle, he dropped 15 pounds in an effort to improve conditioning and agility. Katse said that he's moving around great so far this spring. This is me now, not the Chronicle. He is 2 for 7 this spring with a 286 on batting average and a 375 on base. He struck out 3 times on Wednesday, which I did not know could happen. I was flabbergasted when I was like, oh, he struck out twice. That's weird. And then he struck out another time. I was taken aback. I didn't know that he did that because he doesn't strike out much at all. I believe 15% of the time overall. And he did 100% of the time on Wednesday. That was weird. The article also said that he is going to compete for a job at second, and I just don't know where he fits. Obviously, he's a good bat. He's one of the best pure hitters in the A system. It's him and Tyler Soderstrom. You can make your argument for either one. Soderstrom has a little bit more power, but I think that Jordan Díaz has more contact ability, and he can probably get on. He can hit for a higher average. Let's say that. I don't know if he can get on base at a higher clip, but we'll see. But he makes better contact. He makes more contact. Maybe not better contact because home runs are good contact. But I think that he's a good player. He needs a defensive position, and I've said this on the podcast before. I don't think that him playing for Team Columbia hurts him, but him not being able to be under the watchful eye of the A's while learning second base so that they can see what he's doing like on the field in front of them, they can watch him on TV, but that's different. I think that could not do well. He needs to learn second base a little bit more, and he's been playing with Team Columbia a little bit over the winter, and in a winter ball he's been playing a little bit of second base, but I just think that he's going to need more time. Also, the A's on my roster have Tony Kemp and Aledmys Diaz already at second base. Aledmys Diaz can kind of go wherever, and if you have Cristian Pache on the roster, then Tony Kemp doesn't really have a spot in left field to go. So he's basically a second baseman where he's the best defensively. That's where he excels defensively, is at second base. So you want to keep him there. And I don't know how you squeeze or jam Jordan Díaz on this roster if he's not going to be the DH, because Jesus Aguilar is going to be playing a decent amount of DH, you would think, and also some other A's regulars that might want a half day or something. So I don't know how it lines up, because even without Cristian Pache, the A's would need a fourth outfielder, and that could be Tony Kemp, that could be Aledmys Diaz, that could be Jace Peterson, but they're not like they're more utility guys and not like fourth outfielders, and that might not hinder the A's from making that decision anyway. But I think I'd prefer to have either Rooker or Capel or somebody else that Blade, another outfielder as the fourth outfielder. I'd prefer that personally, and they're probably going to be better defenders, and they're better. I think it's just a better option. So with that being the case, then Tony Kemp really can't move, and then there's still a logjam over there at second base. So it's wild. I think that there's no two buts about it. I think that he starts in Vegas. I think that Jordan Díaz starts in Vegas, and then they get a better idea of how he's doing at second base. That he also didn't play a lot at AAA last year, so it's not going to be a bad thing for him necessarily. He's still 22 years old. He's still young, still very young. And so give him a little bit of extra time there. He's going to be getting regular playing time as well, because a lot of these guys, they are going to be in platoons, and you don't want to just, like, same thing argument that I made with JJ Bleday. Sure, he could be on the opening day roster, but he's going to be on the bench half the time, and he's a lefty. So he doesn't really platoon well with Seth Brown. So where do you play him? And then it doesn't seem like it would make the team better to have him. And I know that Jordan Diaz is righty, and he plays at the infield, but I don't know that he makes the team immediately better, because he's a bat first guy, and you want to make sure that he has a defensive position, and that's something that I think that the A's are serious about. They actually want him to play defense because he is so young, and so that's why he dropped 15 pounds. He's doing what he needs to do. He's gonna be a star. He's just not quite there yet. So get him like a month in AAA. If an injury happens, he can be the first guy called up right there. But I think that he's a reserve guy currently. He's still at the top of the list for guys to call up, but I think that he starts the season in AAA because I just don't see where he fits. And also, if he is in AAA, Zach Geloff, the A's number 3 prospect and presumed second baseman, is also going to most likely be in AAA. So it's a wild situation. I don't know how this works. It's very intriguing. The A's are deeper than people realize, I think, with some guys. Geloff he's getting written about a little bit more, and Jordan Diaz, he's got a bat. So once he starts hitting like we've seen him hit in the past, he's going to be written about a little bit more, and then people will start to realize this team's got some depth. I don't know how they're going to make do with all of these guys, because you got Soderstrom, who can play catcher and first base. If Ryan Noda's doing well, he's your first baseman, probably, right? Unless he's kind of like the new Seth Brown once Seth Brown gets traded, and he's like first base / left field. But then you also have, again, Cristian Pache, Ruiz, and Bleday, or some other combination there. Lawrence Butler they've got some depth, you guys. So get excited about this team. We're going to be seeing they have much better depth options this season than they did last year with Billy McKinney and Sheldon Noisy and a slew of others. David McKinnon. Good times. But I think that this team's going to be interesting, and they're going to be a little bit more exciting to watch. Obviously, they have not won a game this week, but I've been having fun watching them. Anytime Lawrence Butler's on the field, anytime Denzel Clark is on the field. Also, Denzel Clark made an out. He's now only 4 for 5 this spring, and things are wild. I don't know. New Oakland is exciting. And so get excited about New Oakland, you guys. But that's all that I got for you guys today. Thank you so much for making the Locked On A's your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all platforms, including on YouTube. For your second listen, go check out Locked On Fantasy Baseball, because those guys can get you ready for your draft. And if you want to win your league, you got to win the draft. So that's kind of how fantasy sports work in general. I am in a fantasy league with these guys, and I am scared. They know their stuff, and I am scared. I just don't want to embarrass myself. So we'll see how that happens. I'll update you at some point. But that's all that I got for you guys today. So until next time, go out and celebrate good times, A's fans, and I will talk with you next week.